Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Retained Recruiter Show. My name is James.
And my name is Jo. Welcome, everybody, after what feels like, James, a really long break.
I know we did a little session a couple of weeks ago, Jo, so we have been back once since the summer. We had a little break. But the good news is, everybody, if you're a regular listener, we've got some amazing shows coming up over the next few weeks. So we're going to get back to a more regular time frame. We've had the summer break. The winter's coming. That's another phrase we use in some of our marketing, but a different approach. But we're getting into that hard work time of the year, the time when recruiters can make a lot of money, which is good news for all. If you watched one of our recent shows back at the beginning of September, I actually had the privilege of actually talking with Neil Carberry, the Chief Executive Officer of the Recruitment and Employment Federation here in the UK. And obviously at that stage, he said that, the good news was that the recession wasn't going to be as deep or as harsh as many people had expected. I don't know if that's changed in the last week or so in the UK, but maybe a few things have happened. We shall see. But let's not get into the politics. So we've had some great guests on the past, going to have some great guests in the future. But Jo, what have we got lined up today? I think we've got a really fascinating show that we're going to be talking to, sharing ideas with people today.
It's a good show. Soapboxers at the ready, I think, for this one, James. If there's one thing we like talking about, is this subject. So marketing versus business development, which is best, which gets the best results. So we're going to be talking about what's the difference, because there is a massive difference and we need to know the difference. So what the difference is, the pros and cons of each one. And then we're going to hopefully try and give you some top tips on how you can improve your marketing and improve your business development, and also signpost you back to what is now actually a library, James. I'm so excited. When I went onto YouTube, happened upon it by accident. My face repeatedly. I was like, oh, I mean, never watch yourself back. That's the fate worse than death. But all of our shows are now on YouTube, aren't they? So we can signpost people to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, and there's some great shows for people to go back and have a look at, Jo. And I can't believe you've not been accosted yet in the street saying, "Are you Jo Gregory from the Retained Recruitment Show?" No, are they?
I know. How good would that be? I'd love it. I'd love it if that happened. Not in little old Glossop. I think we're way too provincial. Those for the recruiters in Glossop. There are a few. Yes. So we're going to talk about marketing versus business development. So let's start with topic number one. What is the difference, James? What is the difference between marketing and business development?
Yeah, now I think it's interesting because a lot of the time the terms are interchangeable, and we're going to sort of dispel that myth because I don't think they're interchangeable. I think there's some very specific differentiators that we need to bust some myths on that one, if you like. So for me, and I know we're going to explore this a little bit further, Joe, so I just want to give a top line one. For me, marketing is a bit more strategic, and business development is a bit more tactical in terms of it's a little bit more active, because from the marketing side of things, when we talk about strategy, we're talking there really about people going out to spread the message out to a broad audience, to get the name, the awareness, the brand, the message out there. So I think that's and I think you're going to talk a little bit more, Joe, about being one to many. We're going to talk about some ideas on that one. And then when you look at business development, it's a little bit more personal. We're going to talk about something called the Dream 100, which is not something we own, but I'll explain a little bit more about that later. But really sort of getting down to being a little bit more personal, a little bit more focused, and that's why I say it's a bit more tactical. It's about things that you can do today that are going to make a difference. So I think that's one of the things that sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to hire a marketing consultant, I'm going to do some marketing, and my results are going to change overnight. And the difference is, for me, and if I use an electricity analogy, that's another quite topical thing at the moment, isn't it? But I think marketing is a bit like a dimmer switch, something you gradually turn on, and it gets brighter and brighter the more of it that you do. And business development, it can be a little bit like a light switch. You can literally turn it on or off. You can do the activity or not. So I think that's the difference that we'll talk about. So that's just a little brief introduction on that piece, Joe.
Yeah, massively. Do you know, and we work with businesses day in, day out, and some of them are one-man bands, some of them are huge, big global organizations that have a marketing department who look after the marketing, and maybe the consultants themselves are then tasked with the business development side. But I think when you've got a business and you're trying to get an awareness of your brand out there, there is an element of both to a recruitment consultant's job. I saw a great LinkedIn post the other day. It was a real debate that fired up about, and I wish I could name check, and I'm so sorry that I can't, but if I find it, I will definitely repost it. And it was saying that recruitment, is it more of a marketing function than a HR function now. So if you were going to a business in order to, talk to them about recruitment, does it maybe sit more with marketing than HR? And I just think that that's maybe a way that the recruitment industry has evolved over the last few years. I mean, James is a lot older than me, as most of you can probably tell. So when James came into recruitment, there wasn't really any marketing, with the exception of maybe putting an advert in a paper or having a billboard outside your offices. Whereas things have really progressed over the years. And I think the role of a recruitment consultant, a manager, a business owner, whatever you are, it's got harder, it's changed, it's evolved. The job description is now this big as opposed to that big, because you have to add marketing into what you're doing. Exactly like you said, James, marketing for me is more of a one-to-many approach. It's a broadcast approach, but you have to have a strategy for it, because it does, you're right, have that aggregational effect over a period of time. It's about getting in people's peripheral vision, but in a really nice way. I think a lot of people are marketing quite wrong. It's not direct, it's not overt, it's not in your face, it's not really selling, is it? Marketing's a bit different, which we'll drill down onto that in a second when we look at pros and cons. But it's a big part of what we do. Also, social media, marketing, social media, traditional marketing, social media, and then you've got business development. So when we do our training at iIntro, we train, the companies that come on board. We always talk about those three elements, and the fact that you should really have, hi Ty, she's in the chat. You should really have a strategy for all three, shouldn't you? A strategy for your business development, which is a one-to-one bespoke approach. So that's me writing to you, James. A strategy for your social media, which is like just the world's biggest megaphone, isn't it? The opportunity to amplify your message, amplify your brand. And then you've got marketing, which is that one-to-many approach, which is the equivalent, I think, of me deciding that I'm going to create content for a magazine. I have a demographic of people I have a target market in mind, and then I have to be educational or insightful or entertaining to those people en masse, which I think is harder. I think what recruiters do is we get stuck in the middle and maybe send an email to 50 people. So it's not really one or the other. And that's when sometimes these things get considered as spam.
Yeah.
Because they're not personalized, but it's not a broadcast either. It's somewhere.
Yeah, it's not marketing though, is it, Joe? That's the problem. And that's that dilemma with the recruitment consultant's job. It encompasses so many things. And I know there's debates going on at the moment about, the 180, 360, or the 120, 120, 120, different types of. But if you are a 360, particularly if you're a business owner of a small business, then often you are looking at everything. And it's a balancing act of trying to think out, what can I do? What is my strategy for getting my message out there? And I think it's just about a degree of consistency, the drip effect of continuous understanding that marketing is not a one-off event. It's not something you do one week and then think, oh well, that didn't work. I was talking with Finn Patrick, our marketing director, and we were talking with one of our clients who'd put together what they thought was a marketing strategy. They sent out one email to 5,000 companies in the US and didn't get much of a response. So marketing failed was their thought approach on that, and obviously that's totally wrong. I mean, that was just a one hit, and the old one hit wonder syndrome is they might get somebody who picks up on it, but if you don't, does it mean marketing doesn't work? Well, no, you've got to think about your message, and I think it's a little bit too broad. So there's very much a lot of detail that can go into that in terms of understanding that marketing has got to have a strategy behind it. You've got to know your audience. You've got to know what your message is, who you're appealing to, and also what are your expectations. And don't set your expectations too high with marketing. Just build that consistency into sort of understanding, what's your marketing and your branding saying about you as the business. And yes, hi, Guy. Nice to see you again.
Yes, we can. We'll talk about messages in a minute, actually, because I think that's really important. We were discussing before we came on the show about what percentage of the buying decision has been made before somebody actually engages with you. So marketing plays a big part in that. So let's look at the pros and cons of both then. Do you want to be team?
Let's just reference that one there.
Oh, go on then.
Let's just reference that. So again, I've read a book and I've been on a keynote speech, and there's a marketing guru. Look him up if you want. His name is Marcus Sheridan, based in the States, based in Virginia, I think, or he was. And one of the stats he talks about is your marketing is your message, and when you're broadcasting to that big audience, people are going to check you out. And so you've got to make sure there's that consistency element. Does your message talk about who you are, your values? Yeah, and it's going to be generic on that side. You've got to set what they are, because when people look at you, as they inevitably will, that's when they make the decision, because people like to buy the way they want to buy, not the way that you want to sell. Yeah. So, and he posits in his book and his conversations, between 70 and 80% of the buying decision is made before people connect with you. I mean, talk to you. So once you get somebody on the phone, and we know how hard that is, and that's because nowadays there's so many ways for people to look you up without actually talking to you. Think about last time you booked a hotel. Did you phone up the hotel and say, have you got a room? Or did you go on TripAdvisor or booking.com or whatever your choice of things is, hotels.com, whatever, and actually choose something, have a good look around? Well, that's what we do. And the same is true of recruitment. So you've got to make sure that your marketing message is consistent across all platforms. Not just your website, but your social media and anything else where the client may be able to spot you.
Yeah, so, it's a great point. He's got some great content as well, and he is a marketing guru. So, sign up for his newsletters. He practices what he preaches. He's very good at marketing. Be very careful, because he will make you buy things. That's how good he is at marketing. But you'll be celebrating the purchase, going, "Yay, I've made it." So we've got business development, we've got marketing. Now, there's pros and cons to each one, isn't there? So let's go business development for a start. So business development is a one-to-one approach. By the very nature of that makes it quite labor intensive. It can still be a long game if not done in a structured and efficient way. So we talk about strategy and marketing. I think one of the cons is that it takes time. Business development takes time. You're only reaching one person at once, so it takes longer to approach more people. But I think the pros of business development is that you are going to yield better results over a short term, because the attention and the quality that you're giving to that person is concentrated, isn't it? It's a laser-like focus into particular target companies, particular target organizations. Again, I think a lot of the same things apply. Consistency of message, making sure that you're contacting the right people, sell to the people who have the authority to buy from you, not anybody else. But it's still going to be high quality. It's got to be high quality. But that one-to-one approach in business development, it does mean that you'll probably yield better results quicker. I'm a massive fan of business development. I think that you probably need it as well as marketing. But then there's pros and cons to marketing as well, isn't there, James?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing about marketing is it's a building exercise. It's not an instant. That's why I gave the analogy earlier of the electricity switch, in terms of the dimmer switch building up. You've actually sort of got to have clear strategy of what your objectives are, and normally it's for the medium to long term, not the short to medium term. Business development is short to medium term, as you spoke about there, Joe. So I think in terms of that, it's marketing can be more complex and complicated to put together, and therefore more difficult to execute. And it's why a lot of people give up. And it's one that, when people contact us, it's one of the biggest things that they're looking for. They want marketing type support. But again, I think sometimes, as we said right at the beginning, sometimes the terms are interchangeable. And what they're really looking for is, I need some quick business development. Is there a quick fix? And marketing is not a quick fix. Yeah. It's part of that brand building exercise, which is then supported by business development, that one-to-one contact. So Joe, let's just talk a little bit about how we sort of move that on from, because when we say the broadcast, so when I say, when we ask companies, what size database do you have? They'll say several hundred, several thousand companies, organizations, contacts, whatever they may be. I mean, that's a broad audience. So that's something that you market to. But then let's talk about, Joe, a little bit about how we sort of, direct people on how to get a little bit laser focused, as you said. Let's give the technique that we have in good old Chet Holmes, for example. Maybe that's worth talking about.
Yes, absolutely. So business development, if you've got existing clients, lapsed clients, known clients that have been targeted at some point in the past, clients that are known to you or known by you, then I think that business development is the approach there, because there's already a history, isn't there? There's already awareness. So now you're really into engagement mode, which I think is where business development comes in. Now, you can't business develop everybody. There's a great book called Cold Calling for Chickens. Here it is, look. Other books are available. But this book's great, and it talks about, I reference this in a lot of my training, and it's a really old book, but the concepts of it stay the same. That sales is a numbers game, but it's not the numbers game we think it is. It's not the quick out, which is phone 1,000 companies once and then burn their details and then find another 1,000 to call, because you're going to run out at some point. You're going to exhaust yourself. And a lot of it comes back to follow-up. So it is about the best definition of BD I heard. I suppose the concept stays the same for marketing. is that business development is like wearing somebody down over a period of time, but in a really nice way. That actually what you're doing is you're building a business relationship with somebody in order that they learn to know, like, and trust you. And also so that they need you and want you. And so your business development is concentrated. We talk a lot about a Dream 100. So a Dream 100. So identifying 100 companies that you work with, have worked with, want to work with, creating that list, identifying the points of contact within each of those organizations, and then creating a series of touch points over a period of time. That strategy you mentioned, James, is really important. So thinking about a 30-day touch point strategy or a 90-day touch point strategy. And also then thinking about a few key things, the method that you're going to use in order to contact these people, to approach them, the moment you're going to do it in, so the days of the week and the times of the day, they do make a significant difference. But also then the message. So what is it that you're going to put into your message to this person that's personal and relevant and benefit led? And then doing that with those 100 companies. Now, are you going to convert all those 100 companies? No, you're going to take some off. You're going to add some more on. The whole idea is that it is very specific and it's very targeted approach based on businesses that you want to target, because that level of awareness is already there. You know about them and they know about you or know of you. I think with marketing sort of starts a bit further up, doesn't it? Marketing starts with the unknowns that you want to know about you. So we're in the awareness phase there of the funnel, where we need to get them to be aware of us in the first place. So marketing can really help with that, because it casts the net so much wider. So you can communicate with a much wider target audience all in one go. But as much as with your business development, you've got to really think about the method and the message in the moment. The same thing applies in marketing, though, doesn't it, James? It's not just a case of get a candidate and just, send them out to 1 million potential customers. That's not really marketing.
No, and I think it definitely is a business development tool. And obviously, one of the things that many people will do is obviously market candidates, and we use that phrase "market," and it's a bit of a loose phrase, and it's almost more of business develop. I mean, one of the things that I think is quite important for people to understand is that when we're doing that, it's actually going very direct to these people. So I think it's a business development strategy rather than just all saying, "Oh, we're marketing candidates." No, you're using it as a business development tool to actually engage a prospect, a contact in conversation. And it's one of the things that, Joe, I mean, we spend a lot of time training people, talking about all these strategies, marketing strategies, business development strategies. And by the way, if you want to get in touch with us, there was a link up on there if you want to get our battle tested, yeah, that's a good phrase, isn't it? Retained.com. You can download a little plan from us. Or actually, if you want to get in touch with us, what will flash up on screen later after Darren's question there is actually, if you want to have a chat with us, then there's a way to have a free consultation with us. We'll talk you through how we might be able to help you with this. But our approach is to go out there and help you build a business development strategy, which is going to generate some instant results, or relatively instant. Instant, I don't mean like coffee, but instant as in over the next 90 days, in terms of changing the way that you do business. And one of the tools we use here at iIntro is, marketing your most placeable candidates. Now, that's something a lot of people do, and they've got a technique for it, which is to create a little bit of blurb about a candidate, drop it into an email, and push it out there. Now, obviously, we've actually, we're a technology-based company as well as providing a lot of training. So we've actually developed something called Talent Alert Pro. And if you want to have a look at it, go to talentalertpro.com and see how that tool can actually help you sort of market your most placeable candidates in a very unique and interesting way, because differentiating yourself, Joe, is one of the key things that you need to do as a recruiter. Because, when we talk to recruiters, one of the questions we always ask people, what is it that makes you different? Mm-hmm. And every time we ask that, all the response we get are the same. Yeah. And it's like, look, going into a supermarket, Joe, and I'm going to let you pick up the analogy.
Oh no, it's such a long analogy for a 30-minute training session. There'll be people who've done the training sessions with me and they'll be like, she's going to talk about bread again, isn't she? Now, for somebody who is celiac, it's not actually the best thing for me to, I need to pick something else. I really do. But yes, we'll talk. I will bring up that analogy in a minute if we've got time. It's like I'm embarrassed now about this daft analogy, but it's something that I talk about in order to help people to see that when you, I think as recruiters, sometimes we create our own problems in recruitment. And I hear a lot of recruiters complaining that clients are becoming very cost focused. I'm only bothered about the cost. I'm only bothered about the fee. we're kind of getting off subject here, but I will bring it back. But actually, when you think about whether you're business developing or marketing, content is king. The content that you put out there is not only there to educate and entertain and interest and insightful. It's so that people can see the value of what you do and that they can see why you're different. So you've got to be on it when it comes to your content. It has to differentiate you, because if you're saying the same thing as all of the recruiters, it's a bit like having an entire shelf of white bread, no packaging. It all looks identical. And the only thing you have to differentiate one loaf from the other is the cost of it, the little price point underneath each loaf. Now, if it all looks identical, the only difference is therefore cost. So when agencies are going out there and we're all saying the same things, you can't blame clients for being cost-centric and cost-focused, because it's literally the only thing that separates your 18% agency from that 12% agency, because on the face of it, you look exactly the same. So I would ask people to take a really good look at what's on their website, the LinkedIn profile, what's on there, what they're putting out in their marketing, what you're saying when you speak to your clients, when you email them. Because if you're saying, it doesn't matter how much you believe in it, but if you're saying the same things as everybody else, they're just going to put you in the same category as them. And that's when you're probably not going to get much of a response, not going to get much engagement from your marketing and your business development. I love that point that Darren's made. Absolutely. I don't think it's an either or situation, is it? Your social media, your marketing and your business development have to coexist together, which is really hard for a recruiter to do, because that's basically 3 jobs plus the candidate side of your job, plus all your process management, and then all the back office admin. So that's what, 6-7 jobs we've now got. But you have to work together. You have to put these strategies together. I think one without the other won't be as effective. Do you think, James?
No, I agree. And I say, Darren, thanks for making the point. I do think it's an excellent point with regard to that fact. This isn't an either or. This is about bringing it together. But it's about setting your own expectations as well. Knowing that, for me, I suppose business development can work without marketing, but I don't think marketing works without business development. That's sort of the way that I feel that one. So it's really important that you do have a strategy that says, I'm going to do both. And whilst I'm waiting for my marketing to kick in and, gain some traction, I can do the business development. Then as the marketing gains some traction, it fuels the business development. So I think that's where it can feed in. And then I think business development can fuel the marketing, because you can go one-to-one with somebody in business development. We talk about marketing most placeable candidates, or you can talent pool and go out to a broader audience, a bit of a broadcast or broadcast talent on your website. There are those options that you have as well. So I think there are many things that you can do that we're going to really help people go through. So, Joe, what else have we got on our things that we said we'd cover off?
Top tips. I think we've got a little bit of time, haven't we? So top tips for both, really. My biggest tip for this is don't cross the streams. Don't not have a strategy. I think that's a bit like saying, I'm trying to think of a great analogy to use, I suppose. But I think when you say you're just doing sales, and then you don't have a definitive line between your marketing and your BD and your social media, I think then the lines get blurred and you feel as if you're just having a bit of a scattergun approach and some blanket emails, some little bits of emails, and, finding companies on Google in order to cold call, which I think we're past that now as an industry. There are way more strategic and targeted and effective ways of identifying, research and engaging with target companies. So I think definitely separate out the 3 things. Obviously they're combined because they share the aim of the main objective, which is to engage clients and to bring in new clients. But think about marketing and social media and your sales as your business development being as 3 different strategies, and then each one come up with a plan. So when we do the training, James, we talk about the who, what, why, where's and how's, don't we? So a series of like, who am I targeting, how, where, when, and why would they listen to me? And if you can answer those questions, then I think that helps to give you a strategy. So definitely have a plan for each of the 3. Plan, like we said, over a 30 or a 90-day period. What am I going to do to who and how and when and why? And then don't just do a bunch of random sales that just disheartens us and doesn't necessarily engage the clients.
I was just thinking as well, I mentioned it about the consistency level, and I think that's really important. But in the consistency, don't be afraid to change, if that makes. I'm not trying to contradict myself here, because don't just keep going down a track that's blindly sort of taking you down a dead end. You do need to sort of evaluate. So do review what's happening. So do it if you're on the marketing side of things. Do look at things like your click-through rates and your open rates. Which ones are working, why are they hot, and if you're using some of those tools, and pretty much all the platforms now can generate those type of stats for you. That's what generates interest. Those are the people that you can follow up with on a more direct basis, because if you market to 1,000 companies and you get 10 or 20 or 100 people who click through, whatever your click-through rate might be, well, those are the people who deserve a second follow-up, aren't they? But that can be more direct and personal rather than the broadcast message, which is possibly a little bit more generic. So I think we need to go that.
Massively. Consistency is a buzzword. Myself and James do get Bitcoin every time we say it, because it's massively key. But you're right, measure your results. There's no point doing something if it's not working. Don't keep doing it. That's the definition of madness. Make sure that your content is something that your clients will be interested in. It's not about what you want to sell, it's about what they want to buy. And about being able to create a platform for yourself where you can build awareness of your brand, position yourself as an expert, position yourself as a market leader. And some great comments there from Don as well. Hi, Don.
Yeah, I think they're going to pop up on screen, are they? I can't see them on my screen.
There it is.
There we go. Yeah, good point, Don, in terms of agreeing with Darren. And I think the thing that Don mentioned there in terms of thought leadership, because again, a part of your marketing is about you positioning you or your organization as that thought leader, as that authority in the marketplace, so that when you do connect with people, they understand that you know what you're talking about. And they, again, as we said earlier, they will have checked you out on some of those side of things. So I think that's a great point, Don. Thanks for that one. And nice to see you again today.
I know. Do you know what? That is a good point, actually. Just because it's sales, it's not all about selling, is it? Think about the content that you send and think about what you can give to somebody rather than what you can ask them for. It's not all about asking for jobs and trying to sell candidates. It's about sharing information, things that are going to make you interesting and insightful to your clients.
Well, I think that's part of why the strategy is so important. Understanding what is that you're trying to achieve with that. Although the long-term goal of marketing is to generate more business into the organization, it is to create awareness, brand building, authority, thought leadership, and the so on. And the business development is what really generates the sales. So I think that's where the follow-up becomes also important for people, and having the resilience to follow through. And as you said, Joe, it's not about phoning up to try and get a job on and making 1,000 calls and hoping that you pick up a vacancy, but it's actually knowing which calls to make, which is why we come back to the Dream 100, differentiating that into the people that you know, the people that you don't know, and the people that you'd like to know, in terms of starting to be able to target those to specific things and combining, as Darren had said earlier, fusing your marketing strategy with the BD strategy so that actually it's congruent and starts to sort of lead together so you actually know what you're doing. And then be able to manage your time efficiently, because when you talk about the 7 jobs, let's think about how difficult that is to manage. You've got to be really efficient and be really fun. And we always say, Joe, don't we? Plan your day, plan your week, put in a little bit of time, a little bit every day. Will actually sort of keep things going.
And look at automation. Look at what you can automate and what you can't. And then start to, again, that's another hybrid, isn't it? Look at what areas of this you can automate, because if you can automate it and it doesn't dilute the content or the value of what you're doing, then it's worth looking at. Definitely.
Yeah, and I think one of our the co-founder of our intro, one of a guy called Paul Hickey, one of his favorite expressions is do what you do best and outsource the rest. So don't do work that is time consuming for you that isn't rewarding or a good use of your time. If it's better to outsource it to somebody where it's more efficient, both in terms of cost and time efficiency, then don't be afraid to do that as well. So look at, you can outsource some of this material to do it. So if it's not your skill set and you don't want it to be a skill set, trust me, there are people out there who will help you do this. It's not hard to find them. So go from there. So listen, Joe, we're coming towards the end of the show, so why don't we just wrap up with a couple of key points? But I think it's been a fascinating 29 and a half minutes so far.
I think it's been the fastest 29 minutes that I've ever experienced, to be honest. Maybe that's just because we're fresh and I've not been here for a while, and there's all this stuff that needs to pour out of our brains. I don't know. I think it's the company, James. But look, myself and James, please connect with us on LinkedIn. If you've ever got any questions about marketing or business development, it can seem like an absolute what was it? The thing is that like a canter through chaos sometimes, and you can get very stuck in the fog of business development and sales and whatever else you want to call it. But I do think a strategy helps. And I do think sometimes maybe just get some help, someone who can signpost and direct you. But yeah.
Great, Joe. Listen, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for your time today. Listen, everybody, thank you very much for listening. If you do want to get in touch with us, we're just going to flash up on the screen where you can sort of arrange a consultation with us. So it's www.retainedcall.com. He says, hopefully you remember that correctly. And indeed, I got it right. So that's good. I'm all over the last few weeks. So listen, thank you very much for your time, everybody. Look forward to seeing you back next week. Next week, we've got a fascinating journey with one of our clients, actually, who've actually used, how they're going to share with us how they've actually gone out there and worked on what we call MSPs, managed service provider contracts, and delivered over £1 million worth of business over the last couple of years using a different approach. No guesses, part of that approach is our intro, of course. So look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks very much for your time. Joe, great to see you again. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic week.
Bye-bye.